Hello there, Mike Shreve here, and welcome to the very first episode of Trash That Ad. Each and every week, I'm going to be scanning my inbox, Facebook feeds, the internet, my mailbox, my office mailbox, for the best, worst, most interesting pieces of copy out there that are in current circulation, currently being mailed, currently being used. I will then pick a few of my favorite pieces, and then we will break it down each and every week, 10-minute segments. Neither one of us has a lot of time to be messing around. This stuff is going to be short, sweet, and the best part is you'll have access to all of these things. So we're going to be looking at direct mail pieces, Facebook ads, current sales pages, everything, and I'll be providing you all the links and access to all of this stuff so you can actually start to build up your own swipe file. So for example, today we've got 3 pieces of direct mail. All 3 pieces of these all 3 of these direct mail pieces are in PDF format, which you can download below this particular video at mikeshreve.com. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Please note, this is going to be laid back. This is going to be short and quick. We're not going to be doing extensive breakdowns of all these particular pages unless I get feedback and someone says, can you do a separate video on this particular page and why it's so effective? Okay, so very first thing that we have here is the Asimov science fiction. Scroll down here. This is a great little piece of copy or mailer that got me to renew my order with them. I use them for creating ideas for my spec fiction business. They're a great resource, and this piece of copy got me to re-up. The very first thing I want to talk about, we're talking about 2 specific things in this particular piece of copy, and it's this. I call this the reframe and remind opener. It's one of my favorite moves to use in emails. It gets really good response, and I'm so happy to see it being used in this this piece of mail. And essentially what you do is you reframe what you have already given to the reader. So for example, if this is to my email list, I'll maybe reframe something that I've given to them earlier in the week. Like I said, it works really great with emails. And in this particular example, since I'm a customer, the masterful storytelling that you've already enjoyed, that's the sort of the reframe is the masterful storytelling. And the reminder is that you've already enjoyed in Asimov's science fiction. And what this does is this puts the reader in a very good mood, because what you have done is you have reminded them immediately of who you are, not by saying who you are, not by necessarily saying, oh, look at me, I'm this great person, blah, 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 but by reminding them what you have given them. Okay. One critique I would have of this particular sentence, and this is just a line level edit that I would sort of want to test and try, is to get more specific, right? So the cool thing about working in the digital age and using sales copy to sell things is that you can actually look at maybe blog posts that you've posted in the past week and say, okay, this one got like 80 shares and this one got 2 shares. So when I reframe and remind, what I'm going to reframe is that blog post that got the 80 shares. I'm not going to remind them about the one that only got 2 shares, right? And so that also has the effect of people will only remember you for the good stuff, and you have complete and total control over that, which is really cool. Okay, next thing here, so important. You won't want to miss a single issue. I'm telling you, so many of my clients come in when they're looking for critiques or rewrites, and they don't understand this very basic principle, and it is this. Our thoughts, emotions, and even our decisions are based almost entirely off of the biofeedback that we receive from external sources. So outside of our mind. Example, when it's sunny, people get happy. When it's cloudy, people get depressed. It doesn't matter what they're doing. It could be sunny in the morning and people are happy and they're at their job, and then it's cloudy in the afternoon and now they're sad, or vice versa, okay? And one of the things that's really cool about writing is that when people are reading, they're really intensely focused on what's being read, and they internalize this external source, which are just words. So what that means is when you're writing copy, you can state what you want people to feel and they will feel it. You don't have to be tricky. You don't have to show instead of tell all the time. You can just straight up tell someone what you want them to feel. I did this with the email that I sent yesterday to promote this particular video. Check that email out. It's on my blog. It's on Facebook. And try to look for how I did that, where I simply told you what I wanted you to feel about this particular episode of the show. And the last thing is, I just wanted to make this little side note here. The renewal order form, let me tell you something. You need to make it as easy as possible for people to give you money. Before you send anything out there into the world, ask yourself, can I make it easier for people to give me money? If you can, do that because it absolutely works each and every time. Okay, next we have this piece from the New York Times. This particular piece I received because I'm a subscriber to their Sunday edition. I really like getting the magazine, which is actually what we're going to be talking about next, is the magazine. I have a few things really quick about this particular mailer. I would say that this was not that effective of a piece of copy. As a matter of fact, I would say this would be a fail in my book. Number one, this is so confusing. This upgrade and save 25% for 16 weeks of the Weekender is just so confusing. And as a headline, it puts the reader automatically in a state of confusion. But here's the killer. So you remember the envelope from Asimov had this little window right here. Well, it turns out that the New York Times envelope that this came in, when you fold it up, that headline sits right here. All they needed to do was just get an envelope that had the little plastic window right here, and I think they would have gotten even more opens. Although I will say the important news about your subscription is a very good you could use this as a subject line. You could swipe this as a subject line for your emails. That's really good because people are very concerned about the things that they pay for in their subscriptions and things like this. Another side note, I will say that what this particular piece of mail does display well is this idea of so many people, particularly in internet marketing and online-based businesses, think that you can only have one product that you do recurring monthly, right? So you have like one $27 a month program. Well, what you should have is like 4 levels of a recurring product, like a $27 option, a $47 option, and a $97 option. And then you should send out emails or even direct mail pieces like this, although written better, to get people to upgrade to the highest level. Not enough people do that. I think it's a really good way to add that additional revenue and really to offer more to your customers and clients, things like that. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about really quick. I hate this, man. And with the Weekender, you'll get times delivery Friday through Saturday and make more of your weekends than ever before. That's such a vague and unrealistic promise. I get the newspaper every Sunday and it does not change my life, okay? And a lot of beginning copywriters make this mistake. They think that you have to have huge promises in order for something to be effective, and quite the opposite is true. What you have to have is realistic promises that you can deliver, and that's what makes good copy. You can frame realistic promises interestingly, but making more of your weekends than ever before by reading the newspaper, that's absurd. That is completely and totally absurd. The second thing that is just bad about this piece of copy is that they have this list of features. And you have to understand that people who buy the newspaper aren't buying it for the features, because the features could be, I could go online and get all the news I need for nothing. So what you have to do, particularly if you're competing against, in like an information marketing business where the majority of what you're selling could probably be found for free online, you have to sell benefits. You have to sell benefits. You have to sell benefits. Why? You have to sell why buying their features is better than getting the features for free somewhere else. And the only way to do that is through benefits, okay? So mind-boggling to me that they completely missed that. And then I will say this good thing about this particular sales copy. This is one of the better uh, call to actions that they have here. You'll see it right here. It starts at enjoy all this and then act now to get more of the times. Call to actions are so important, so important. And that's all I wanted to show you with this particular piece. So we've passed the 10-minute mark. I hope you're still with me, but we're going to keep going here. This is the third and final piece of copy that I wanted to show you because this is so interesting. This was found in the New York Times Magazine that comes with the Sunday edition of the New York Times, and it is an interesting magazine, but more importantly, this is a really good example of native advertising. I don't know if you're familiar with the native advertising at all. There was a big hullabaloo about, I think it was a Huffington Post article put out by the Church of Scientology, and it was a native advertising example. Anyways, lots of very interesting stuff going on right now in the direct marketing world with native advertising, and I found this to be a very interesting example within the New York Times Magazine. It is a 6 or 7 pages, I can't remember. Let me show you here real quick. Just scroll down. It's this really long article with ads placed every other page, and then this is the final one. So 6 pages basically that this particular company purchased in the New York Times Magazine. Now, I think that this was a failure on their part, and I'll tell you why. First, the targeting on this is a little unclear. I'm not sure if they're searching for people who have cancer and are looking for treatment, or if they're looking for investors in this particular hospital. You don't find out until quite later on in the piece itself, even who this hospital is, and it ends up being this hospital, the James, what's it called? The James Cancer Hospital, which is just very interesting. But then it also has these other research organization ads sort of set intermittently throughout. But what I want to talk about here isn't necessarily the ad itself or how the ad was set up or the target or anything like that, but the copywriting itself, because I think there's some big misses here. First off, the headline. The headline makes me crazy in the head because it's so generic. I don't think that you have to be tricky with your copywriting, like using copywriting moves and tricks and like clickbaiting on every single headline that you write. I don't think that is necessarily the case. I don't think it would work in something like this if they are trying to attract cancer patients to come to their particular hospital. I don't think like a BuzzFeed type headline is really going to be appropriate for something like this. However, you cannot be boring. It doesn't matter what you're selling. Boring is going to lose you money. Boring will lose you money. Additionally, cancer screening, prevention, and treatment isn't what this article is necessarily about, or this native ad is necessarily about. It's just a very bad headline. I highly recommend that you take a look at this, read through, and see how bad of a headline it is. One thing I will say that they did really well, and you'll notice this in my ads for my copywriting businesses, you see her eyes, which direction they're pointing. They are going up, which is a little bit, it actually drew me to this particular line. But I think if she had been looking down, I think that would get more eyeballs on the headline. I use this in my ads for my copywriting services. A lot of people accuse me of using the fact that they're women and they're scantily clad, because I don't know, I didn't think they were that scantily clad. But actually, in both cases where I do have females as the image in the Facebook ad, their eyes are looking down, not at their breasts, but at the headline that is in the link itself. I also have men that look down at the headline and they get the same response rate. But one of the questions that this particular ad brings up that I really want to talk about really quick, again, we're over time already, and I might have to adjust the 10-minute quota. We'll see. I don't know. I'll listen to your feedback and see if you guys think that these longer videos are better. But one of the questions that a lot of people get, and I think it's this sort of fear of sales and sort of this really like I talked about earlier in one of my emails, this false social construct that sales equals skeezy or scummy or bad, or if you're selling something, you're a bad person. And so you really have to ask yourself, like, is it really morally right to use copywriting tactics to sell this sort of health services? So it turns out it's for a typical cancer patient, it costs about $138,000 to get treated. Now that's a lot of money. Um, a terrible thing for the person who has to go through it, but that's also a lot of money. And here's my thoughts on using sort of trying your hardest to sell this to someone and using what you know about copywriting to do that. And hopefully this will free you from whatever fear you feel about selling your own stuff. Number one, if the product is good and true, then sell the pants off of it. You have every right and obligation to sell as much of it as you possibly can. If the claims in this article are true, that this James Center for Cancer Research is the latest, greatest, best cancer research in the world, and that more people are, whatever their claims are, they should be trying everything they possibly can to get as many cancer patients into that hospital as possible. Not only so that they make a lot of money, but so that they can help as many people as possible, right? So if you have something that's good and true, you have an obligation to use everything that you possibly can to get it to as many people as you possibly can. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that I think it's really important to realize that in the United States of America, hospitals are for profit. A typical hospital will generate $1 billion a year in revenue. Those are the sort of the higher end hospitals. I think it's really important to remember as you look at this particular ad, and I hope that you guys do download it because there's a lot of very interesting stuff in here, and I'm probably not going to be able to get to a lot of it just because we're already in the 15-minute range. But consider that as you judge this particular ad. Okay, one of the things I would definitely want to get to is these sub-headlines are just awful. They're just awful sub-headlines. They don't encourage you to read. I tried to put myself in the shoes of somebody who either knew somebody who had cancer or who had cancer myself, and I'm telling you right now, these sub-headlines, along with the headline, are so generic that if I had cancer or if I knew someone who had cancer, by the time I'm picking up this very broadly targeted ad, I've already read everything there is to know about side effects and you have to bring something different to the table if you're going to be targeting patients or loved ones of cancer patients, because these are people who are literally like on their deathbed and who are probably investing a lot of resources into learning about this stuff. And if you're going to go something broad generic like this in a broad generic targeting base like the New York Times Magazine, you really have to bring something new and fresh and innovative to the table in terms of both what you're offering, but especially with the copy. Now let me give you an example. This is something that I can't believe they missed it here, but in the second to last paragraph, if you look, what they've done is they've got this really interesting paragraph. It's right here. It says, thanks to a government grant, the James will have an above ground rather than basement level radiation oncology department, one of only 4 in the world. Well, hello, that's unique. Because of the radiation, you typically use the basement, pointed out, I don't know how to say his name, but in this instance, we used very special brick from South Africa, which repels any radiation, and built it on the 2nd floor, so there are windows. Okay, now I don't know about you, but when I see and I think about the reader, okay, when I think about that person with cancer or the loved one of the person with cancer, and I read that last line here where it says, which repels any radiation and built it on the 2nd floor so there are windows, I see the emotional angle for getting these people to this hospital. Okay? The research is great, the science is great, everyone knows there's no cure for cancer. Okay? Even the most hopeful person in the world knows that as of today there's no real solid one-size-fits-all cure for cancer. Okay, people beat cancer, that's awesome, but it's not like a flu vaccination where you get it and then you don't have it anymore. There's a lot of factors involved. So you have to go emotional on this. You just have to. If you're gonna get people to come, you have to go emotional. And you see, This idea of spending your last days in the basement of a hospital. How depressing would that be? And how amazing would that be to not only have all the best technology, all the best research, but then to be able to at least spend your last days, or your potentially your last days, or the potential last days of your loved one, in this really like rigorous and torturous and terrible treatment that we currently have set up for cancer patients. That's just so hard on the body. Instead of spending it in the basement, you get to spend it in rooms with windows, looking out at some great view. I don't know if there's a great view. I would assume it's a hospital. It's a new research hospital, so they probably spent a lot on landscaping, things like that. That is an angle. That's an emotional angle. Now, that's what I would do if I were in charge of this particular ad, as I would look into that angle more. What other things like that can we provide on top of the sort of generic baseline? Yes, we have doctors who are trying very hard, just like every other hospital has doctors who are trying very hard. And I think especially with their final ad here, okay, they say the world's most advanced cancer hospital opens soon. I would maybe even say the world's most advanced and comfortable cancer hospital opens soon. Or the world's most advanced and, I don't know, something along the lines of we really care about our patients and so much that we use this special South African brick kind of thing. That same feeling and idea as the headline, but especially since this is the claim, right? The new James, the new cancer research center, the new cancer treatment center. Not only the most advanced, but there are no routine cancers. There's no routine cancer hospital. I would really try to play in that emotional angle, particularly with the current views on healthcare. People know they're sort of greedy for-profit organizations. If you can really paint the emotional side, that's what I would go for. Okay, so anyways, this video went on a lot longer. I hope that's not a problem. I would love to hear your feedback, particularly in the Facebook page, if you think that this video went too long. If you did, what I can do next time is maybe do fewer examples of direct response ads. But again, this is the first episode of the Trash That Ad series. I can't wait to do this again next week. This was a lot of fun for me. I hope you were able to get something out of it. Below this particular video on MikeShreve.com, you will be able to access the PDFs of all of these ads so that you can take them, home and pick them apart and find out what's working, what isn't working. Look further into the things that I've said in this particular video. I hope you enjoyed it. Would love to hear your feedback. I look forward to doing this again next week, and I hope you all have a good weekend.